Hello, 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 and welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back, you fucking cosmic baddie. Welcome back, my cosmic baddies. You're a cosmic baddie because you keep returning and I love it. Welcome back to Chakras and Cuss Words podcast. My name is Catherine and I'm your host. And if you're new here, I welcome you. So glad you're here. So let's get into this cosmic magic that's occurring. I will say the spring, in all honesty, we're not even fully in summer yet. Summer doesn't occur until June 20th. We're technically still in spring. The spring, we always see a lot of astrological movement. We always see a lot of movement with the planets kind of jumping from one sign to another. Kind of reminds me of some of these men on the streets. They can't sit still. They can't, act right. And I will say, if he's not holding you down in the spring, the fall, the winter, girl, you save that fucking energy for somebody else in the summer. You save that energy for yourself in the summer, right? Because that's when we're fully blossomed. That's when we're in our energy of being outside and enjoying life and enjoying the movement of the energy of what the cosmic connection is bringing us, right? Learning everything, letting it balance. It just feels like a beautiful time in the summer. I know, especially for me out here in the beautiful sunny state of California. So let's get into this cosmic energy that is occurring. And it's Jupiter entering Cancer, which is occurring on July 9th. Jupiter entering Cancer is a powerful astrological transit. As Jupiter is definitely considered a power planet, it's considered like one of the planets that you want. Like you want this planet somewhere in your chart making some fucking magic, right? It's not as restrictive as a Saturn. It's not as communicative as a Mercury. It's not as centered on love as a Venus. It's centered on fucking magic and abundance and seeing the highest potential that you could possibly create. And what's so beautiful about this alignment is Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, which means Jupiter thrives there. It's like being in your divine era, you're like thriving in that state. Have you ever had like a year and you're like, fuck, this year has been great. Like I got a badass job. My relationship's going good. I'm feeling good. Just everything is feeling like amazing. And sometimes you look back at that year and you're like, damn, what was it about that year? What was it? What was it that was giving me that confidence, that abundance, that movement? I felt so big. I felt so grand. I felt so luxurious. I just felt all the things that I've wanted to feel. There's a high possibility that Jupiter could have been in your chart, giving you that little abundance in one of your houses, or having a conjunction or a sextile with another major planet that kind of aligns you. So this is definitely the energy of being at your highest potential. And it amplifies expansion. And Jupiter really amplifies the energy of growth. And being a little bit optimistic. Like sometimes I have to remind myself, girl, be optimistic, honey. Stop being such a pessimistic bitch. Like you could be a little optimistic, right? You could see that abundance is coming through. The qualities of that Cancer nourishing and having that emotional and intuitive tie into our own personal energy. There's definitely some movements with Jupiter and Cancer that just fucking stands out. Like there's no way you can ignore the connection that this Jupiter and Cancer has together. In the areas of emotional growth and healing, the Cancer sign is all about home, family, emotional security, and Jupiter really brings focus to our emotional intelligence, the way that our inner childhood wounds have played out in our life. And as adults, especially as adults, we kind of like see how these inner childhood wounds kind of like resurface. Could Jupiter in Cancer bring this back up? Yes, definitely. Definitely when there's been deep bonds with loved ones and certain issues have not been acknowledged. This Jupiter in Cancer could definitely bring that energy back up. People also may feel like a little bit more centered to being a little bit more open-hearted, compassionate, protective, and especially like with the home, the family, the space of emotional well-being. And I love that for the collective. I'm hoping Jupiter in Cancer is kind of like going to bring this like softer element, because right now I feel like the feminine, and there's nothing wrong with some pure feminine rage. Fuck, I love it. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes we have to get a little bit more centered on the softness, just a little bit, not all the time, because sometimes we feel too soft where the softness is almost making us feel like spongy. We don't want to be spongy. We just want to have this nice softness where we feel a little cuddly. We don't feel spongy, but we feel a little bit cuddly, a little bit stable, a little bit centered around nourishing and taking abundance through compassion and letting that energy really touch us and touch the people around us. Jupiter expands in the energy of movement that amplifies, in some places, the feminine. We have to remember that Cancer is ruled by the energy of the moon, and the energy of the moon has a lot of emotional traits. It has a lot of feminine traits, has a lot of movement of fertility, creating and growing families. So if that's something that you've been centered on, like creating and growing a family, like Jupiter in Cancer is almost like giving you this permission. It's giving you this permission to feel that calling, to feel that space where you want to be centered with the home, you want to be centered with the community, you want to be centered with children, you want to be centered with certain aspects of ancestral healing, certain traumas, certain childhood traumas, and definitely certain womb traumas. The mother womb the mother womb, especially if there's always been inconsistencies with the mother womb from a very, very, very early start. For instance, if your mother had issues with her pregnancy, if she had issues with her childbirth, if she had issues with maybe a breakup. There's a lot of times that couples break up while the woman is pregnant. And sometimes that energy can transcend to the being in the wound, right? We have to remember that the mother is the sacred guard. It's the sacred temple of the child. And the mother is building childhood trust just by holding space for this child, right? So the intuition and the spiritual depth that could come out can really get heightened during this presence. Also, since the Cancer is ruled by the moon, it's making this time where intuition and psychic downloads feels extremely intense. It feels very heightened and feels very centered around messages in some elements. I remember when Jupiter was in Pisces, there was a lot of awakening to spirituality. There was a lot of awakening where all of a sudden I felt like you see this huge shift of people awakening to astrology, awakening to the energy sources, awakening to their own personal presence. And this Jupiter in Cancer is awakening the intuition, but also the energy of dreams. And they may feel more vivid, just like how it did with Jupiter in Pisces. And also it may have that energy around the feminine. So I feel like women during this transit will definitely have awakening of the feminine energy, the awakening of the collective energy of the feminine. And what's also very interesting is that a lot of us have these gut feelings of how stronger, how spiritual, how root-based a lot of us can be. A lot of us are connected to the universe, are connected to the higher senses of the feminine, and allowing our feminine practices and allowing our feminine power, especially ancestral work and moon rituals, to take place if that is something that you are diving into. It's interesting because sometimes I feel like people express that the moon isn't as powerful as the sun. And in some elements, we have to remember that the moon is a softer energy. The sun is very masculine. It's worked off of the solar plex chakra in some spaces. It's hot, it's heated, it's intense, it creates this vulnerability for us when we just embrace it. There's many times when we are with this masculine energy, it can almost feel too much. But the moon is a different type of energy. It's this subtle energy of purity. It's this subtle energy of beauty, of illumination that's quite quiet. It's almost like the silence that so many of us need, so many of us should allow in the home. And allowing the energy of a softness, of a silence to rule the home versus the intense heat of the masculine. So the intuition and the spiritual depth will transcend over to areas of the modern day, right? When we have something that is so vibrational in a softer way, in a softer element of the consciousness, slowly emerging into the divine element of a Jupiter in Cancer, we also see that the home, the property, and the energy of root work will come back up. What's going to be interesting is I wonder what's going to happen with real estate. Hear me out, hear me out. I feel like we had this emerging factor, and real estate is extremely high right now, especially in California. Real estate is crazy. Like, there's a lot of movement around real estate. But I've subtly noticed that real estate has kind of taken a subtle ease, where houses that were flying off the market, and I'm always looking at real estate, have been flying off the market like within within a week, are now like they're 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And I wonder if this Jupiter in Cancer is going to expand the areas of investment. While Jupiter feels aligned in Cancer and aligned in the area of real estate, is this expansion going to make it easier for others? Moving into a place that feels like home, that feels like a connection, is deeply important. And it's deeply important in your ancestral roots and your family history. Like me personally, I love the home I'm in. I wish there was a few things that I could tweak about it, but personally, I love the home that I am in right now. But there's going to come a point to my life where I downgrade into a smaller home, because just of the area of mechanics, the energy of just how I want to transition into later in life, right? But right now, where I'm at is okay. But even though, sometimes we go and we look at real estate, it's like you get a calling, you get a intuition, and this intuition could be calling for many of people to invest and create an energy of a forever home, a soul home, an energy where they can work on these roots, work on these interconnections. So I'm hoping that this Jupiter in Cancer will make it a little bit more affordable for people to do this. Make this energy more as a collective, where a collective is able to work back into the energy of property, back into the energy of roots, back into the energy of generational home and generational home buildings. We also want to look at the energy of protection and boundaries with a Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer can make people very generous, especially for feminine energy. It can also make us very generous where maybe we're just feeling like we want to nourish everybody. We just want to care for everybody. We just want to take care of you. Just sit down, let me take care of you. But there comes a point where we have to say, you can only do so much. You can only take care of this individual so much. You can only give so much until you're overly giving. So you also have to protect the energy spaces that's around this. We have to remember that the energy of the crab, it has this hard exterior, very hard. It's like a shell. There's energy of growth where it moves out of certain spaces, but deep down, it's very soft inside. And growth comes from knowing when to open up, but also when to retreat. The crab will retreat back into the sand, back into the shorelines, back into the water, where it is protective, where it is safe. So it comes a point where, especially with this Jupiter in Cancer, we have to look at, is it time for me to retreat? Or is it time for me to show my vulnerability? And especially in relationships, this is very challenging, especially in relationships that have so much value. And if this is something that has value, you'll definitely see it, because a energy shift will occur where you'll want to create abundance with an individual, where you'll want to create meaningful connections, where you'll want to create that home, where you'll want to create those root focus. But you have to look at it as, am I going to allow myself to be vulnerable because the energy is there for the abundance to move forward? Or is it time for me to create some boundaries, create some restrictions? Because Jupiter in Cancer can be very naive with the feminine energy. And I love the feminine energy. The feminine energy is very beautiful. And if you have a lot of feminine energy, this Jupiter in Cancer might make you want to be so floating on a beautiful wave where you're just almost giving it all away and not really seeing the true focus of allowing the boundaries and also allowing the protection and the charisma of this transit to move in a connection that feels soulful and also feels purposeful. So who's going to benefit the most when Jupiter moves into Cancer on July 9th? Well, definitely the water signs are going to be feeling a shift of this wave of emotional support and growth and inspiration. And the water signs include the Cancer, the Scorpio, the Pisces. And they're definitely going to be centered on energies of spiritual inspiration. Also, we have to remember that the cardinal signs are going to feel the majority of movement. And I'm going to do a full reading for all the zodiacs. But the cardinal signs are definitely going to feel a shift as well. And that would be the Cancer, the Capricorn, and the Libra and the Aries. Earth signs might feel a little bit more stable. They want to be working on that energy of the home as well. If you are a Cancer rising, I definitely feel some movement will be occurring for you in your area of self, and we'll get into the reading later, particularly around if you have a Cancer moon, a Cancer sun, Cancer rising, or if you are a Jupiter in Cancer. in your chart, you're definitely going to experience this transit a little bit more deeply and personally. So when we look at the energy of let's create this abundance, let's create this movement, we have Jupiter heading on into Cancer on July 9th, and it's about growth, wisdom, and the energy of the feminine, creating those emotional safety nets, being centered around our intuition. Cancer won't be back in Jupiter after this transit that's going to occur all the way till I believe August of 2026. I think it's August 13th, but I don't have the exact date. And it's a 12-year cycle. So after this will not happen for another 12 years. Jupiter likes to stay into a zodiac for about a year. We experienced a long haul with Jupiter and Pisces. Jupiter and Pisces was definitely a little bit longer. I feel like it was almost like a year and a half to 2 years. But Jupiter in Cancer, we're looking at about the energy of almost a little bit over a year. The home and the family expansion is definitely to be around blessings, property, and the area of moving. And if you aren't moving in certain directions, you could definitely be reinventing your home, clearing certain spaces, moving towards having more connection with your family or the mother, definitely finding elements or pieces of the collective, pieces of the community that feels like home, strengthening the family, and definitely working towards healing some ancestral wounds, especially the mother wounds. Jupiter in Cancer is also about trusting our intuition and being emotionally compassionate, but also being protective. So we don't want to lose sight on those few things. And while this energy may kind of be taking us up in a whirlwind, there's definitely things that we can do to incorporate energies that are centered around this. For instance, we can journal about our roots. Journaling about our roots, like our childhood, certain aspects of our childhood, allowing our inner child to come out, allowing the funness of the inner child, allowing the collective to embrace the inner child, but more importantly, allowing you to embrace the inner child, allowing you to write a letter to that inner child. I want you to go ahead and think about one of the years in your childhood that was probably the most challenging. A lot of times we like to get focused on our preteens, but sometimes there's years that have occurred at an early age that have been very challenging. And what's interesting, if you don't remember those wounds, and you've always felt like there's been a wound there, you always felt like there's been some kind of triggering factor there, but you can't really put your finger on it. You can't really put the timeline to it. Go ahead and write a letter to yourself of some of the emotional traits and some of the emotional triggers and wounds that continued to be with you in your childhood. For instance, like if you had childhood anxiety and you don't really understand where it came from, go ahead and write yourself a letter to your inner child, acknowledging, I know you feel like this. I know you felt like this. I know there were nights that you were scared. I know that you were in a place that should have felt sacred. The home should always feel sacred. And sometimes as a child, it doesn't feel sacred. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel as that energy that allows us to be nourished and allows us to be cared for. It could feel a little bit different. Also in this letter, express to how you, the adult you, would heal those wounds as an adult coming in. What would you have done to allow this child, this beautiful child, to heal these wounds? Would you have cooked for this child? Would you have volunteered, played with this child? Would you have held this child when the family was having a screaming match? or whatever? Would you supported this child in school, especially if the child was being bullied? Where would you have placed this energy for this child? And then you can do a deep, deep reflective space and see how healing childhood wounds can occur. But first, we have to have the self-awareness of where that emotional space and that emotional energy came from. The cosmic alignments that we want to watch for definitely is when Jupiter will have any type of energy around Saturn, because sometimes it could feel a little bit constrictive, right? And also if Jupiter will have any alignment with Neptune and Aries, that will definitely feel very beautiful, dreamy, and visionary. I would say that definitely there are these dynamics that move forward into caregiving, vulnerability, and the spaces. What's interesting is the last time that Jupiter occurred in Cancer was right around 2013 to 2014. In the area of rise of mindfulness, when we think about it, like the parenting and emotional connection really started to break in mainstream culture. I would definitely say around this time, we saw a lot of home-based wellness practices kind of open up and get in the forefront, while yoga has definitely been a practice that has occurred in many cultures, especially in Hinduism, Buddha, and other embraces of allowing stillness and movement. There's definitely been some modern, I guess you could say, or as one might even say, some oppression, and also some areas of where people have claimed these practices for their own. Definitely there's been some gentrification that has occurred with these practices, and also some energies of where people have definitely used spiritual practices, because yoga is very spiritual. A lot of people try to say it's just for exercise, right? It's just for the energy of movement, of exercise and stretching. But in actuality, yoga has a very deep spiritual base where you are creating movements in honor of certain deities, of certain gods, of certain movements. So if you don't understand the ancestral roots and the ancestors' movement of the culture of yoga, it definitely might feel like it's just for exercise, but there's a lot of wellness traditions that actually are rooted from a spiritual practice, same as meditation. And definitely when we are working with these energies, sources, and with these wellness practices, we have to see that there's a practice that we have to acknowledge that isn't traditionally our own. It's allowing the homage and allowing the movement to be spoken through the ancestrals of a different culture, through the ancestors of a different practice, and allowing that embrace to guide us. But also seeing that this is something that we have taken from a different culture, that we have taken from a different practice. Another thing that has came out during this time, besides the home-based wellness practices of the mass creation of yoga studios and meditation, would also be intuitive eating. And intuitive eating really has gained popularity, acknowledging I'm not hungry, acknowledging I'm full, and just eating when your body speaks to you. So that gained a lot of popularity around 2013 to 2014. There was also some global tension that occurred during the shift of Jupiter in Cancer back in 2013 to 2014, which really was centered around the personal and emotional well-being. We also had that ancestral DNA genealogy testing that occurred, like 23andMe had this huge popularity. We've seen that it's kind of shifted away. 23andMe, I think, is going bankrupt. So it's going to be interesting to see what is going to come out, what people are going to use that will show a shift in the area of ancestral healing and also closing certain movements of acknowledgement of where it is that we or you came from, right? In certain spaces. I would say more people in the 2013s and 2014s were definitely centered around cooking from home and having more clean foods. When I started, for some people who don't know, I started a clean eating group. I would say I probably started this group back in 2016, 2017. But before then, I was definitely studying like clean eating, foods that are centered around roots, exploring the meaning of the food, not just internally as like, oh, this food is healthy for me, but also understanding the internal energy that this food gives you. For instance, the foods that play with the certain areas of certain chakras was something that I was definitely diving into. Understanding that these traits of what have occurred back in the past could definitely come back up again, especially as we are focused on home safety and creating almost like a purity, right? I definitely think that a lot of people will be returning to their roots in some space, returning to their ancestral healing, that maybe DNA exploitation might occur during this time. We've definitely been seeing a lot of heritage pride, cultural pride, and I think it's beautiful. There's definitely been some challenges, of course, with a lot of things that are happening, especially with mass deportations. And it is something that is very challenging for a lot of families. A lot of broken families are occurring. And I'm wondering if this Jupiter in Cancer is going to allow this to grow bigger, where there's going to be more broken homes, or if the Jupiter in Cancer is almost going to give some type of leeway where the deportations may ease up or they may stop. Because people are getting deported pretty consistently and homes are getting broken. Unfortunately, I don't know, how you feel about this on the energy of your personal beliefs. But for me, and when we talk about culture and heritage and pride, to me, I feel that people shouldn't be separated from their family, like their children shouldn't be separated from the parent. Does that parent have to make a decision? Do I leave my child here, or do I go take my child with me to its personally to its root-based home country, where acceptance will be more centered around growth and stability? Because I couldn't imagine living in a country and being so fearful of being deported. It's absolutely heartbreaking. I personally think, I would definitely try to get my paperwork. I don't know, because I hear a lot of mixed things, but interpersonally, I wouldn't want to live in that fear. I would rather live with less money than live in that type of fear. So we'll also see if something happens with homelessness and housing justice. Will anything occur as home ownership and the energy of Jupiter in Cancer is settled in that space? I definitely think that people will be making emotional connections that are way more stronger than this surface level of socializing like we've seen with Jupiter and Gemini, there might be a decrease in social media. People I know I post a lot on social media, but in all honesty, it's very hard to actually make deep connections. I've made connections with my community through social media and showing up at certain businesses in certain areas, but definitely social media is sometimes very challenging to make deep connections. I try to make deep connections with my listeners who message me, listeners who comment on posts or podcast or whatever, or people who have questions about astrology. I try to make a connection with them and understand that this is somebody who is intrigued by the content that I bring and that they have questions, and try to help them figure out what it is that they are trying to learn or what they are trying to gain. I definitely think there's going to be a power in areas of spirituality. Like I said, there's definitely going to be that soul nourishment returning back to the shift. So we might see some more caring aspects. I definitely think that we'll see some soul enticing careers such as nursing, therapy, education, healing arts, spiritualism. Please, if you are practicing spiritualism, oh, I'm going to sound like a bitch right now. Please don't trample ancestral grounds. Do your spiritual practices in your own fucking community. Thank you. This is definitely a karmic rebalancing year, as we are centered with 9. So be aware of that. Let's get into the reading for the zodiacs. Here we go. So there is definitely a shift occurring, and we're going to go into all the energy of the rising signs. Okay, so this is for the rising signs. Your roots are definitely changing in some aspects for all of us, but let's get into it. So the Aries, if you are Aries rising, this is occurring in your 4th house. And I definitely feel like there's a strong calling around the home and around sacred spaces, also around energies of property and energies around connecting with family, really having that setup come through. So if that could be working on the home, buying a home, being centered around new energies of creating a sacred space, setting up your spiritual sanctuary, this is your time to really step into that emotional placement of your foundation and your future. For the Taurus rising, this is occurring in your 3rd house. This is an everyday beautiful magic for you. The Taurus is always centered around learning new things and being rooted with these things, but this is definitely a time you're going to speak it, you're going to feel it, you're going to write it, you're going to share healing powers, you're going to share those sibling ties, you're going to share all that energy around the neighbors and the community. I know Tauruses don't like to, Tauruses I feel like are a little bit social. They're not as social as a Gemini, of course, but they definitely have that energy of sociability. But you're going to want to get out there in your own spiritual and centered place. And I would also say a Taurus could definitely pick up some new spiritual classes, learn about certain energies, use your voice to really soothe this shift. Don't be afraid to use that throat chakra and expand to not just yourself, but also with others. For the Gemini, this is occurring in your 2nd house. So for the 2nd house, I definitely am feeling areas of abundance around money, material gains, confidence, and also emotional truths. So you're going to align your resources with the energy that nourishes your soul and creates that space of manifesting not just money, but also material magic that supports your safety and your worth and your tens and your values, like the energy that moves in beautiful abundance and flow. You're going to be watering your garden of luck. You're going to be watering your garden of materials and also movement. We have to remember that what's also interesting is the Gemini is just getting done. Gemini risings are just getting done with having that Jupiter in their house, right? And especially in their first house, but especially if you're a Gemini zodiac, maybe like Donald Trump, you know, I definitely felt like his astrology was very clustered, but I definitely think that Jupiter in Gemini, and I believe his 10th house, really got him where he is when we look at his presidential campaigns. And I'm not saying like, oh, go Trump. I'm just saying that we have to see at what a huge impact that Jupiter can definitely bring to people in their charts. The Cancer rising, this is definitely your glow up. You're a glow up fucking cosmic baddie baby. Oh, you're such a magnetic honey. Jupiter is exhalated in pure magic with you. So this hits you, your aura, this hits your essence, this hits who you are. You're definitely becoming that individual that you have been yearning for, that you knew you always were, but maybe it feels like such a big shift. You're stepping into your power. You're stepping into your era, whatever era that is, your villain era, your black cat energy era, your soft girl era. You're just stepping into the biggest and baddest witchy bitch I knew you could always be. And I love this for you. Cancer risings, I feel like, are just so magical to begin with, but you're definitely shedding that old you vision and you're getting more aligned in who it is that you truly are. Your vibe is beautiful. Your vibe is everything right now. Enjoy it, embrace it, work with it, love it, become it. The Leo rising, this is occurring in your 12th house. This is about areas of spiritual downloads for you. Psychic times are really moving forward. Your dreams are probably going to be a little bit of a mixture of being very solitude, but also being very vivid. So you're definitely going to have a mixture in your dream space. Also, you're going to want to see that you might be wanting to like break away from some individuals and you kind of like want your peace, protect your peace, also protect your sacred rest, protect your rest in the energy of home and the energy of holding what is valuable to you. It's not about being so visible all the time. It's not about being always out there. The Leo also needs the confidence to clear and to rest, especially Leo risings, clearing karmic loops, allowing the subconscious to kind of take play and looking at the unseen guides of healing. So I would definitely be working on a lot of spiritual practices of meditation, grounding, whatever fits the Leo's rising's bill of moving forward. For the Virgo rising, this is occurring in your 11th house. So I definitely feel like your collective, your coven is calling. The community, the area of your soul family, your soul ties are arriving in different higher energies and frequencies. So you might want to join a collective circle. I wish I was more consistent with my collective circle with yoga and stuff like that. And I wish I had that energy of getting out there and creating a collective circle. I always say I should go and create like a moon circle one night or do a collective energy exchange, such as like a sound healing off of donations. But I don't know. I just am so busy that I never put that slowness to allow myself time to really adapt and move the vision further. But it will come, just maybe not now, but it will come. Your big vision and your future dreams need to be centered around finding and also allowing emotional intelligence and manifestation to move in the areas of the collective and in the area of your community. So for the Libra rising, this is happening in your 10th house. This is centered around areas of the heart and also areas of where it is that you really want to be in the area of legacy and also the areas, one might say, your resume. So the Jupiter wants you to rise. It wants you to pick shit up and really honor your space and your spirit. It could be your career. It could be centered around your emotional well-being, but seeing the public roles and that leadership energy that really plays out, recognizing your responsibilities and also softening your approach. I could say a Libra rising being like, kind of having a harder approach. But this Libra rising, you're going to want to soften some of the roles, and that will allow you to shine in your leadership. It will also allow you the emotional and personal well-being that supports your leadership and supports who you are in your career. So your career path will be blooming in supporting that energy of what it is that you are looking for that really honors your spirit. For the Scorpio rising, this is occurring in your 9th house. So you're going to be called to definitely have some movement of travel, maybe visiting some faraway places or seeing the higher center around spiritual teachings or spiritual paths. You're going to have a deep and also physiological and philosopher type approach to these truths. You're going to expand your beliefs and you are going to see some challenges. We all see challenges, right? We all see challenges, but also challenges in learning new things always kind of tap the brain and tap the crown chakra in an area that feels so much more abundant. So I would definitely be working with the higher chakras for a Scorpio rising, such as the third eye and the crown chakra, and seeing the areas of where you're going to be diving into the facts and the mystic. You're going to open your horizons and follow the signs, follow that moon energy that this Jupiter in Cancer is bringing into the 9th house and allowing that emotional space to fully get involved in your deep teachings. The Sagittarius in the 8th house, this is definitely a growth zone for you. Deep, transformational, soul merging, and change is occurring when the shadow work is done. Shadow work, sacred surrender, surrendering ourselves to the area of what we once thought was very potent, what was very stable, and seeing where we can shift. We're also going to be looking at shared money. There could be energies of people giving money, the energy of maybe learning how you can receive other money from individuals if that is working on some type of contracts that feel like there's a generational tie to it, learning or inheritance. Intimacy, sex, and death and rebirth are all a cycle of more growth. So allow that presence to understand. There is a ground in the area of transformation that is occurring. Shed the old skin. Shed the fucking old skin and old thought processes and allow the rebirth to occur. Remember, birth is messy, but it is so beautifully magic. It is magical. It is tied to the energy of fertility, which allows birthing of a new place, birthing of a new timeline, birthing of a new frequency. So allow that magic to move forward, to understand that sometimes you have to shed that skin and have a new rebirth of who you are. Capricorn risings, 7th house. This could be centered around partnerships, romantic businesses, also spiritual connections, and also areas of emotional healing and mutual growth. So Jupiter is blessing you in the energies of relationships. So be open to soul contracts and deeper bonds. Also see that softer connection and lead with compassion and empathy. So for the Capricorn, you're going to want to let that Capricorn rising, you're going to want to let that hard hat down and allow the softer side of the moon to take place. For the Aquarius rising, this is occurring in the 6th house. So you're definitely going to want to look at wellness as a whole and daily rituals, the energy of health work, the energy of wellness, becoming emotionally tied into the integration of what it is that you are seeking. Create that energy of a sacred ceremony. Let your body and mind and spirit really have like this cohesion of frequency where you feel like the energies of wellness and routine are really emerging as one and emerging with you, especially around the home, as this is centered with the Cancer. Healing is habitual and it is consistent, allowing that practice to take forward. For the Pisces risings, I feel like you guys are going to be a little flirtatious. A little flirtatious, a little creative. This is occurring in your 5th house. You're going to want to cast the spell in your own areas of creation. Your inner child definitely wants to play. Your inner child wants to get out there. So you're definitely going to establish those inner child traits that makes the inner child feel so divine and that allows the inner child to really enjoy itself. If you need to heal the wounds around the inner child before you allow the inner child to come out and play, definitely do that. We're going to see some romance. We're also going to see some art, some areas of magic making. It could be love making, but allowing the spirit to grow, especially in areas of creativity, projects, lovers, and laughter. So let your heart lead the way to you. Jupiter in Cancer, and if you are a Jupiter return in Cancer, it is definitely a womb expansion. You are either born with this area that feels so tied into the ancestral water of magic, and you won't have another Jupiter return for another 12 years. So definitely allow this growth and soul level intuition to really see your blessing. For everybody, ask yourself, what does my sacred home mean to me? How can I and my mother and myself of a mother become an area of abundance to not just self, but also to others? And where am I able to see and feel love without guilt? We have to remember that the collective wisdom of Jupiter in Cancer is occurring in centers of rebirthing ourselves through the water, rebirthing ourselves and allowing our emotional intelligence to speak the area of whatever our spell work, whatever our boundaries, if it's protective magic, if it's retreating back to the water, saying I need to create some more protection before I go out there to these harsh lands, to this harsh ocean shore, to the seashore. Do I need to retreat back into my shell for a little bit? Or no, I need to embrace the waves. I need to travel. I need to understand that if I share my compassion, if I share my nourishment, it can create a portal. It could create a portal for not just self, but for others to reclaim the sacred energy of the mother, to reclaim the sacred energy of the feminine, empowering our soft power and spiritual security, and anchoring into our ancestral wisdom and intuitive flow. Nourish yourself like the beautiful siren that you are, mermaid, or high priestess. Allow this abundance to born from the energy of care, love, and not be centered around hustle and not be centered around so much strong movement. The Jupiter in Cancer is a little bit softer. It reminds us that when we feel safe, when we feel nurtured, when we feel loved, when we feel cared for, like a child with its mother, we will grow and we will bloom. Everybody have an amazing day. Have an amazing Jupiter in Cancer for the next year. Let me know how you plan on using this energy. And please comment, like, and subscribe. Please share this with your witchy bestie and go ahead and give me a 5-star rating for love and gratitude. And everybody, bye.